J'informe les membres du Conseil que j'ai reçu de représentants d'Afghanistan, d'Algérie, d'Argentine, d'Australie, de l'Autriche, d'Azerbaïdjan, de la Bosnie-Herzégovine, du Brésil, de Cuba, de l'Équateur, d'Espagne, de l'Inde, d'Israël, du Japon, de la Jordanie, du Kazakhstan, du Liechtenstein, du Mexique, de la Norvège, de la Nouvelle-Zélande, des Philippines, de la République de Corée, de Singapour, de Sri Lanka, de la Turquie, République islamique d'Iran, Colombie, Albanie, Canada, Nigeria, Maroc. Des lettres dans lesquelles ils demandant et être invités à participer à l'examen de la question inscrite.
Mr. President, honorable ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the government of Croatia for convening this timely meeting, and I welcome His Excellency President Medic, President of Croatia, to chair this meeting in person. Terrorism is a global scourge. The carnage it inflicts is appalling and morally reprehensible. It seeks to foment distrust between states and peoples. It tries to tear societies apart, undermine institutions, and weaken the bonds that tie communities together. The awful attacks in Mumbai 2 weeks ago are only the most recent example of mad, misguided individuals run amok. Terrorism is a leading threat to international peace and security. Combating it must be one of the international community's main priorities. Those armed with planes and guns today could well arrive with more potent force tomorrow. And so, those who believe that terror is a means by which they can achieve their goals must be shown that they will fail. The best response to a corrosive and malevolent ideology is a strong assertion of collective resistance. We need to defend the human rights that terrorism so brutally violates. We need to defend the values enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the 60th anniversary of which we commemorate tomorrow. The United Nations has a responsibility to lead the international community's efforts to confront this menace, which no cause or grievance can justify. As a universal organization with independent and impartial standing, the United Nations is uniquely well placed to play this role. And indeed, the Security Council and General Assembly have strongly condemned terrorism time and again. They have sought to promote the universal norm that terrorism is never acceptable, adopted important legal instruments and law enforcement measures, and addressed the economic and social dimensions of terrorism. The Assembly's adoption of the United Nations Global Counterterrorism Strategy in 2006 was a landmark that demonstrated the unanimous and unequivocal commitment of the international community. UN mechanisms such as the Counterterrorism Implementation Task Force and subsidiary bodies of the Security Council are also important parts of the picture. UN agencies such as the International Civil Aviation Organization and the International Maritime Organization are providing advice and technical assistance. In some countries, the United Nations might be the only acceptable donor for political reasons. In others, the United Nations may add value simply by giving legitimacy to bilateral or regional programs because the United Nations has determined that they meet international norms and standards. We are also employing the convening power of the United Nations in this struggle. At last month's high-level culture of peace gathering, leaders and senior officials from more than 70 member states representing diverse faiths and communities rejected the use of religion to justify the killing of innocent people and acts of terrorism, violence, and coercion. And in September, I convened a symposium here at headquarters in September that placed a much-needed spotlight on the plights of victims. The awful paradox is that voices of terrorists often garner more attention than those of the people who bear the brunt of their cruelty. This is only the beginning of our efforts to correct this imbalance, give a human face to the victims of terrorism, and thereby build a culture that rejects terrorism. Mr. President, in closing, let me remind you that we meet just 2 days shy of the first anniversary of the bombing of the United Nations offices in Algeria. That horrendous attack took the lives of 17 of our colleagues and injured some 40 more. It was all too reminiscent of the attack on the UN compound in Baghdad more than 5 years ago. And just a few weeks ago, a suicide bomber attacked the United Nations compound in Hargeisa, Somalia, killing 2 staffers. It is more apparent than ever that the United Nations too has become a deliberate target. Yet these tragedies have deterred neither our will nor our ability to serve the international community. The United Nations will continue its vital work wherever and whenever needed. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
National security concerns and the protection of human rights and the fundamental freedoms of our citizens. I wish to reiterate that Bosnia and Herzegovina remains fully committed to effectively prevent and fight this global threat and stands ready to provide any assistance and support to the international efforts in the same regard. Thank you for your attention.
Je remercie Son Excellence Sven Alkalay, le ministre des Affaires étrangères de la Bosnie-Herzégovine, de son déclaration. Je donne la parole à Son Excellence Ahammed, le secrétaire de l'État aux Affaires extérieures de l'Inde.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, let me express my deep gratitude for the strong condemnation and the condolences expressed by members of this august body over the heinous attacks in Mumbai recently. The terror attack in Mumbai from November 26 to 29 marked a qualitatively new and dangerous escalation of the terrorism that India has faced for over 2 decades. Through this period, as in the Mumbai attack, major terrorist acts in India have been sponsored and organized by groups and forces from across our borders. The Mumbai attack also made it clear that the terrorism is a direct threat to international peace and security. Mr. President, let me briefly recall what our investigations have revealed so far about the attack. A group of 10 terrorists from the government terrorist organization Lashkar-e-Taiba reached Bombay in the evening of 26 November 2008. The group divided themselves into 4 smaller groups and proceeded to pre-selected targets, which included a cafe popular with Indian and foreign tourists and 2 major hotels. Each terrorist was armed and equipped with AK rifles, pistols, grenades, explosives, and communications. The terrorist attack was conducted like a commando operation, indicating that the perpetrators had received professional training, both generally as well as specifically regarding this attack itself. They were indoctrinated with ruthlessness and barbarity, Innocent passengers, including women and children, were indiscriminately sprayed with bullets at the railway station and public places. Hostages were taken into hotels who were subsequently massacred. It is significant that this was the first terrorist attack in India where the foreigners were specifically segregated and targeted. 9 terrorists were killed in the action taken by our security forces, while one of them was apprehended. His interrogation has revealed that they were trained in Pakistan and were launched from a ship from Karachi. They traveled into Indian waters, took control of an Indian boat, killing the crew. Thereafter, they came to Mumbai to cause mayhem and murder. 179 persons, including 26 foreigners, lost their lives, while 296 persons, including 22 foreigners, suffered injuries in this attack, which was designed to kill and maim as many people as possible. Other Indian cities, including Jaipur, Delhi, Ahmedabad, have also been the victims of terrorist attacks. We have requested the Security Council to proscribe the Pakistani group Jamaat-ud-Dawa, since it is a terrorist outfit and should be proscribed under Security Council Resolution 1267. All those who were in any way responsible for Mumbai's terrorist attack, wherever they may be, should be brought to justice. Mr. President, the fight against terrorism demands effective international cooperation so that those who are responsible, wherever they may be, are brought to book. The organizers, financiers, and logistical providers of these terrorist attacks have to be punished. Those who give ideological and moral support to this evil phenomena must also be brought to justice. Terrorism does not happen by chance or at random. Terrorism is planned, terrorism is financed, it requires meticulous organization, it needs arms, and it requires safe haven. When it occurs, the world is shocked. What is not easily visible is the backstream of terrorist acts. Mumbai's case is clear. The back trail is marked and definite. But in cases where terrorist acts are aided and abetted to cover their tracks, all of us separately and together must ensure that they are discovered and the terrorists are brought to justice. Nothing, no religious grievance, dispute, or ideology can be used as a raison d'etre by anyone to justify terrorism. This is totally unacceptable. Raising dust to confuse the tale so that the merchants of terror can hide is not acceptable, not to us, not to any civilized society. Mr. President, terrorists are the enemy of the people. When actions of terrorist groups are used to serve the political interests of states, a deadly combination emerges. A terror machine is created. India has had and experienced such machines which need to be eliminated. The nexus between state or the elements within the state and terror outfits must be broken, and groups or individuals that indoctrinate, organize, plan, and finance terror have to be uprooted along with other measures. Therefore, in the context of this discussion, we call for the following action by the Security Council, the General Assembly, and the international community. The Jamaat-ud-Dawa and other such organizations need to proscribe internationally and effective sanctions imposed against them. Their country of origin needs to take urgent steps to stop their functioning. A message must also go out that the perpetrators of terrorist acts must be brought to book and not given sanctuaries in some states. Practical measures at the global and national level need to be immediately put in place to see that the massacre and this menace of terror is uprooted. The Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism that India tabled in 1996 needs to be adopted immediately to provide a framework for the international law against terrorism. This cannot be held hostage to definitions while terrorists continue to take innocent lives. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our people ask the international community to determinedly pursue and eliminate terrorist organizations. The world needs to act decisively and in a coordinated manner to prevent further attacks. India will act to safeguard and protect its people from such heinous attack, however long and difficult that task may be. We have acted with restraint in the face of terrorist attack. We must do our duty by our people and take all actions as we deem fit to defend and protect them. The Charter of the United Nations and the provisions of international law, including the right of self-defense, gives us the framework to fulfill these responsibilities. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, this is a message to the Security Council that I bring from my government and my people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Je remercie Son Excellence Ahammed, le secrétaire de l'État aux Affaires extérieures de l'Inde, de son déclaration. Je donne la parole au représentant de l'Australie.
Mr. President, Madam Deputy Secretary-General, Excellencies, thank you for the opportunity to speak today on Australia's assessment of the current threats to international security from terrorism. But first, Mr. President, I would like to join others in expressing our condemnation and disgust at the recent attacks in Mumbai. Australia reiterates its sympathy and solidarity with the government and people of India. Australians, I know, were deeply shocked by these attacks, not just because we lost 2 of our own, but because of the randomness and cruelty with which.
Monsieur le Président, je voudrais tout d'abord saluer la présence à la direction de ce débat de Son Excellence Stefan Mesic, président de la République de la Croatie. Je voudrais également féliciter votre pays, la Croatie, pour son accession à la présidence du Conseil de sécurité pour le mois de décembre et remercier votre délégation pour l'organisation de cet important débat. Monsieur le Président, la recrudescence des attentats terroristes à travers le monde, dont les derniers qui ont endeuillé la ville de Mumbai en Inde, rappelle que la vigilance et la coopération internationale sont toujours de mise face à cette menace à la paix et à la sécurité internationale. L'Algérie condamne avec fermeté les actes de terrorisme sous toutes leurs formes et dans toutes leurs manifestations, quel que soit le lieu et le contexte où ils sont commis. L'Organisation des Nations Unies
amenazas a la paz y a la seguridad internacionales causadas por actos terroristas. En este sentido, quisiera suscribir plenamente el contenido de la declaración formulada por el representante de Francia en nombre de la Unión Europea. El mundo sigue conmocionado por los muy graves sucesos acaecidos recientemente en Mumbai, con actos terroristas indiscriminados contra la población civil que han generado una condena.
Afghanistan.
President, let me begin by thanking His Excellency the President of Croatia for his commitment to this important debate and for chairing this meeting here today. We congratulate you for your assumptions of the presidency of the Security Council for the month of December and for the concept paper that was circulated. We also note with great appreciation the presence of the Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, and Deputy Secretary General in today's debate. Mr. President, we are gathered here today to address a great common threat to the international peace and security, terrorism. First and foremost, I stand with my government and my people in firmly condemning the atrocities that occurred in Mumbai almost 2 weeks ago. Afghanistan extends its greatest sympathies to and solidarity with our brothers and sisters in India, because we feel and understand their suffering. A few hours after the first attack in Mumbai,
I thank the representative of Afghanistan for his statement. We shall now suspend our meeting, and the meeting will be reconvened at 3 o'clock. The meeting is suspended.